My dear colleagues, let me start by saying thanks to the Dow Jones News Fund, soon to be the Dow Jones News Fund, and the Columbia Scholastic Press Association for co-sponsoring this award. To JEA and NSPA for this fabulous convention. It is amazing. And to Herff Jones for underwriting this luncheon. My thanks also to my listserv friends and my NorCal journalism advisor buddies who have called, emailed, Facebooked, texted, and tweeted congratulations in the past 2 months. What a fabulous group you are. I am humbled to represent you. To my own journalism teachers from UC Berkeley, to the Columbia Missourian, from my Newsweek editors, to my master teachers in San Francisco. To my fellow teachers and administrative and parent supporters in the Palo Alto Unified School District, particularly those in the English department and members of the media arts team at Pali, and especially to two particular advisors who work with me, Esther Wojcicki, advisor to the Campanile newspaper, and the matriarch of our journalism program, and Ellen Austin, JEA Regional Chair, advisor to the Viking Sports Magazine, who is blazing an amazing trail just 4 doors down from me. To my current and former students from the Pali Voice and Verity Magazine, and from a decade ago to at the Lowell and the Lowell on the Web, where there happens to be a challenge this week, so I know that you'll join me in sending your thoughts their way. And finally, to my family, my dear wife Jackie, my kids, my parents, my cousins from New York, all of whom are here in the audience today. I am committed to representing you honorably in the coming year. I often find myself saying at the end of the day, I love my job. I feel lucky to be able to say that. And on a day like today, when I'm here celebrating with you the work that we do, I love it all the more. I come to you today from the great state of California, home of the free speech movement, which began at my alma mater, home of the strongest student press laws in the country, home of the 1994 Journalism Teacher of the Year, Nick Ferentinos, who, with his students, courageously and successfully used Education Code 48907 on day one of the Hazelwood era to make sure that Hazelwood would not apply in California. Home of the groundbreaking Journalism Teacher Protection Act, brought forward by our legislative champion, State Senator Leland Yee. And yes, on the left there, California is also home to the one-man institution we know as Steve O'Donoghue, our 36th Journalism Teacher of the Year, who after decades of advising is still giving. California is home of Silicon Valley, which in turn is home to Palo Alto High School, where between a news magazine, a sports magazine, a broadcast newspaper, a daily broadcast show, a yearbook, photography and video production programs, a journalism website, I and my colleagues teach and advise some 300 journalism students a year, 500 if you add in the rest of our media arts program. That's 500. And I think we still have room to grow. Indeed, I think that across the country, our programs all have room to grow, and that at a time when our professional media, and as a result, our very democracy are in crisis, we have a responsibility to grow them. More on that soon, but first, I want to share with you a story or two about some very small people and some very big ones. It was 2 summers ago when I read this headline in the Palo Alto Weekly. online. Researchers claim to have found Bigfoot body. In the end, the quotation marks should have been around the word researchers in addition to the word Bigfoot. It was, after all, a hoax, but I did not care at the moment. What I cared about was that somebody claiming to have found a Sasquatch was holding a press conference right down the street from me. I've always been a sucker for the idea that journalism is a front row seat on life, never more so than in that moment. I wanted that seat. I emailed my students, hoping I might get one of them in and then tag along as a chaperone. No dice. It was the middle of summer on short notice. I cast around. My gaze fell on my then 9-year-old daughter, Maya. I thought, maybe, just maybe. I found an organization in New York that publishes the work of kid reporters. Would they publish her story if I helped her? Yes, they would. I fired up my laptop, whipped up a press pass in InDesign, and voila, we were in. It was a journalism carnival. 200 reporters from around the world. Cameras clicked, pens scribbled. The guy in the Chewbacca suit shouted out questions. And Maya, she was amazing. She wrote the story. Sure, I helped, coaching, talking her through it, but she did it, and Scholastic Kids Press published it. And I found myself reconnected to some basic truths about the work that we do. First, that journalism can turn the lights on in a young mind like nothing else. Second, that if we can bring a 9-year-old to the altar, why are some of us limiting this opportunity to upperclassmen who get A's in English? I found myself reconnecting to the idea that we can and we should get more students into that front row seat. More on that soon. Turns out that my kids, here's Maya with her younger brother Evan, another writer in the making who just conducted his first interview for a school project last week, have more than a little journalism blood in their veins. Their grandfather, my dad, was an award-winning high school journalist. He was an editor and reporter for his college newspaper. An executive editor. He was an Air Force public information specialist working in print and radio, an award-winning professional journalist with the Herald Examiner in Southern California, and a public relations consultant for 2 decades, a career capped by his work in creating resident-run newspapers for low-income minority communities in the LA City and Chicago housing authorities. Truly awesome undertakings. And in retirement, he was editor of a nonprofit newsletter in Eugene, Oregon. So you see, my kids have kind of an unfair advantage. My dad taught me some basics that I teach my children and apply in my classroom today. Tell the truth, fight for justice, insist on equality for all, and nothing worth doing well, or nothing worth doing, comes easily. And my kids also have a journalism connection on their mother's side of the family. Their uncle, whose name I can't tell you and whose face I won't show you, was a photojournalist working internationally when he snapped a photo at the wrong time before the wrong group of soldiers. Brace yourself, I'm going to show you a photo, and it doesn't really pass the breakfast table test or the luncheon test. This is what the soldiers did to him. I remember the first time I saw the photo. I was teaching Orwell's 1984 in an English class. We had just been talking about censorship. I was at the lectern checking my email while my students worked. Wham, there he was, the welts emblazoned across his back, fairly or unfairly seared into my brain as the embodiment of Winston Smith, the face, if you will, of censorship. To me, this is what censorship looks like. Our students, thank goodness, face nothing this extreme in the course of their work, but they do get it in 1,000 lesser but still reprehensible ways. And every time I hear about one of those cases, I'm back with my brother-in-law, with Winston Smith, full of fury at the tyranny of dictators large and small. I think about him when I hear about security guards who confiscate reporters' cameras, of principals who delay or outright destroy copies of student publications, who refuse to hire or rehire teachers because of their students exercise their constitutionally protected First Amendment rights, of superintendents who knuckle under pressure by mobs of vocal parents and impose prior review, of state attorneys who try to scare off college reporters by subpoenaing their private email and Facebook messages, and of Supreme Court justices who give license to school officials to behave as petty tyrants. I'm here to tell you that in California, we don't live by Hazelwood. Our students can write about whatever they please, provided their advisors help them do so professionally. They can write about sex. They can write about drugs. They can print images of piercing and other body art. They can challenge taboos and authority. And you know what? The sky does not fall in. Life goes on. Learning goes on. Students are enlivened by their classrooms. Communities are enriched by student media that engage in and reflect the full spectrum of student life. Let's pause at this moment to thank administrators like mine who don't behave as dictators, who don't treat their schools as if they were operating under martial law, who rightly allow dissent and criticism. Thank you for your courage. And thank you for standing up for the First Amendment. We need more role models like you. To students and advisors in Hazelwood States, I say don't accept the status quo. Find some allies, build a network, get some support from the Student Press Law Center. Fight to overturn Hazelwood in your state. Before you dismiss this as some revolutionary talk from a Berkeley radical, consider that some of the other states that have said no to Hazelwood: Kansas, Arkansas, not exactly bastions of liberalism. Let's build more Hazelwood-free states. We should all be non-Hazelwood states. We can call them free states if you like. That's something the Kandells, from the smallest to the largest, can stand for. Aside from fighting censorship at every opportunity, I come back to this: how can we get more students in journalism classrooms? What can we do to give more of them that publications experience? How can we get more of them into that front row seat? 3 ideas. First, if we're going to get more students in those front row seats, we need to focus on outreach to address our terrible lack of diversity. A lack of diversity seen in the professional media, in JEA and NSPA. Just look around your convention. And in our schools, where white and Asian students and their parents have figured out that journalism is one of the most potent enrichment programs out there, and their Latino, African American, and Pacific Islander counterparts, for the most part, are not taking part. At least that's how it is at my school. At Pali, we've tried special invites, conversations with La Raza and the Black Student Union, even a diversity in journalism club. Over time, the problem only got worse. Last year, out of hundreds of students in beginning and advanced journalism programs at Pali, none were on the free or reduced lunch list. None were from East Palo Alto, our sister community a few miles away that has a vastly lower socioeconomic profile. We had to do something, so this is what we did. We held a 2-week summer workshop away from the school in the community where our minority kids live, and we offered students $8 an hour for 40 hours to take a beginning journalism class. And then we got them a 6-week paid internship. And then we said, if you can do all of that, you can skip our beginning journalism program. That's something we never do. And you can move right on into a publication. Our efforts have met with limited success so far, but we have reason to believe that it's going to be stronger in the future. We're looking for funding right now to run the program again this summer. To these kids, I say, we want you with us, we need you with us, we're not whole without you. I'm proud of the summer program, but I also realize that it's not enough. We need to think bigger. We all need to think bigger. How can we inoculate our students, all of them, with First Amendment values, with the journalism brand of critical thinking and writing, with 21st century communication and web literacy skills? At Pali, our answer, think of it as our version of No Child Left Behind, is to try to embed a high-tech beginning journalism web literacy curriculum into our required 9th and 10th grade English classes. That way all students will get the enrichment. All students will get qualified to work on a publication. You want 21st century citizens? This is where you start. My colleague Esther goes so far as to say journalism is the 21st century English. I have long ago learned not to doubt Esther, even when she's being audacious. It is not every teacher who can successfully moonlight as the chair of the board of directors of Creative Commons. When Esther asks, could this approach to journalism be scaled nationally? I'm all ears. Listen carefully, and I think you'll hear that she has key parts of our national education leadership arriving at the same conclusion. My advice is, stay tuned. Prepare to be audacious. As a prelude to my final point, let me tell you what's been happening in the past month at Pali Journalism. For years, a login and a password was something you could only get if you were a member of the 30 or so person staff of the Pali Voice. This year, the Voice staffers, sick of the hours of uploading the work of the other staff, said, no more, do it yourself. We'll show you how. And so they started passing out passwords. And a funny thing started happening. Does this mean we can upload stories between issues, one kid asked? Yep. Does this mean I can post podcasts of me reading my print columns? Yeah. Does this mean we can publish stories and even video clips of the football game the same night? Yep. Can we announce our stories on our own Facebook and Twitter pages? Yes. The enthusiasm was palpable. In handing out those 130 or so passwords, we had, in effect, created 130 or so digital journalists, including Verde magazine editor Caroline Wang, who is here with us today. Caroline and her staff members who adore their print product also realize that they can no longer afford, none of us can any longer afford to be just print journalists. In the professional world, at the starter level, those jobs don't exist. They're never likely to exist again in our lifetimes. We need to adjust. I've been doing digital journalism with students since 1996. Every time at these conventions, people ask me, how can my students do what you do? How can we do that? Can we do that? And the answer for 13 out of 14 years has been, no, my kids are, I can't even tell you what they do. That is no longer the case. Well, I still can't tell you what they do. But I know that others can do it, and it's being done. And it's time for us all to do that. We all have to be digital advisors. There are lots of places to start. I am a fan of JEA's digital media page, maintained by Aaron Manful. The message of the site is clear. No more of the same. Get on the web. And I'm a fan of Tracy Ann Senna, who joined me in throwing out our same old summer workshop advisor training program and said, no more of the same. We need to get these advisors on the web. And I'm a fan of the Journalism Education Association of Northern California, whose leaders got it right this year when they threw out the template for their tired old journalism conventions and said no more of the same. This convention needs to be about digital journalism. And I am a fan, too, of JEA and NSPA for producing a national convention that also gets it. No more of the same. It's about the web. On that note, I would say, can we go farther? Let's get a clue from the Poynter Institute and offer distance learning for students who have trouble making it to these national conventions. Why isn't this speech also a webinar? Why aren't all of our presentations also webinars? And if first-person contact is needed, I have somebody to make it. I am a fan of my colleague Ellen Austin, who has suggested sending advisors out to the hinterlands of scholastic journalism to conduct trainings there. Think of them as digital barn raisings. No more of the same. Get these kids on the web. What does the future of digital media look like? I don't know. But I think my students got close to it a few weeks ago when their assistant principal brought a Spirit Week rally to a halt by announcing that 100 to 200 upperclassmen would be suspended for up to 5 days for participating in an egg fight. My students were poised and ready. They were already at the rally, cameras in hand. Ticker and tweet bulletins and a short story with the news were up in 15 minutes. A video announcement with a transcript was up within an hour. The story posted later that day drew 4,000 visitors, many of them drawn through alumni Facebook networks. More than 50 user comments appeared in 48 hours, and more still in response to stories in the next few days. A story about a sit-in the following morning, a photo essay showing the damage from the fight, text, sound slide, and videos covering the resumption of Spirit Week and the eventual rescinding of all but a dozen suspensions, editorials from 3 separate publication staffs. All in all, the site pulled in more than 50,000 unique visitors last month. That was an exhilarating moment. Those were all exhilarating moments. But at their core, they are not about technology. They're about values. Technology is just its latest vehicle. When I see our summer program in East Palo Alto bearing fruit, when I see my students engaging in great storytelling, in getting that rush from delivering breaking news, when I see them exercising their rights to fight for what they believe in, I'm drawn back to those Kandell family values. Tell the truth, fight for justice, insist on equality for all. Nothing worth doing comes easily. Those aren't just family values, those are American values, and quality education is for me, and I know for you, the greatest way to pass them on. Thank you. Let's have a great year.